Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or the apps for either one of those two radio stations, which are free to download, free to use. And you get this and any of the shows you enjoy on either station in crystal clear streaming audio. Speaking of crystal clear, how about the video on the live stream? Moving up in the world. I'm actually getting kind of self-conscious about the whole thing, but we do live stream the show each and every day, anywhere you scroll. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts. 719-247-1313. You could call or text in those thoughts, or if you are watching the live stream, then you could just simply drop a comment right there. Some interesting, Vance Joseph, Broncos defensive coordinator, had some interesting things to say out of the Broncos preseason loss to Green Bay. And while I thought that there were some positives on the offensive side of the ball, I couldn't really find any of them on the defensive side. It was not a good performance from the side of the football that you come to expect much, much more than what they got. But the important thing, whether it's good or whether it's bad in the preseason, because there isn't the consequence to it, right? Like if you drop a game, you may lose a division, lose a wild card spot. Without that consequence, the biggest thing is, are you learning? Are you understanding things in order to fix them moving forward? And Vance Joseph brought up something quite interesting, I thought, in evaluating how the Packers played the Broncos defense.
We've seen how offenses see us, right? So lots of boots, lots of misdirection, outside runs more often than not, match protection passes, quick game. Teams don't want to lose first down, because if they do lose first down, our rush kind of takes, it comes alive. So I think that game was an example of what is coming in the future.
And that's really interesting. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, right? When you look at this Broncos defense, if you're an opposing coach game planning for them, what are you going to start with? I mean, Surtain, maybe, not really. It's the pass rush. That's the thing you have to worry the most about with the Denver Broncos. We've seen teams navigate their way around Pat Surtain for a few years now. Even if Pat Surtain is the first guy that they bring up in their meetings, here's the thing. Don't throw it to this guy. Moving on. It's the pass rush of the Denver Broncos. That's the thing you have to worry the most about it. And it's interesting what Vance Joseph is saying there, because teams now are going to do everything they can to avoid second and long, third and long. And Vance Joseph brought this up too. Second down was really where the Broncos defense ate last year. Right? They'd stuff a run on first down. Now you're in second and long. And that's actually when Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, when they start getting after you. And inevitably you're in third and even longer. And then the drive is basically over for you, right? So now it's not third down that you're waiting for. It's not third down when you hear the whinny of the Bronco through the loudspeakers at Empower Field and everybody getting loud. They got to do that on second down now. That's going to be the big down this year to watch out for with the Denver when the Broncos defense is on the field. Or it should have been earlier. It should have been that last year, I guess I should say. And we know in the NFL that when there's so much innovation on the offensive side of the football. And I think the defense gets unfairly labeled as like that's the caveman stuff. Like they're doing defensive stuff from 20 years ago, 30 years ago on the defensive side. And it's just not progressing the way that offenses are. And maybe it's not at the same rate, I will grant you. But there's some pretty innovative stuff going on the defensive side of the football. Right? But you have so many bright offensive minds. Many of them are head coaches who have their own offensive coordinator. That's also a young, bright mind. There just seems to be more brain power and intellectual capital being spent on what to do offensively. So what Vance Joseph is seeing, teams will probably be pretty effective at it. Right? Short slant patterns. This is something Vance Joseph brought up. Outside run to avoid, the Zach Allen, DJ Jones, that front, Malcolm Roach. And try to get a good gain on first down so the Broncos pass rush can't pin the ears back and get after you. So how does Vance Joseph and the Broncos defense counteract this? If offenses are going to do this, if offenses are dead set on not being in second and long, and they're fairly successful in that, what can the Broncos defense do? Create turnovers. Right? That's how you counteract it. The Broncos' strength the last year was their ability to get after the quarterback, but their weakness last year was they didn't create turnovers. Well, if teams that go against the Denver Broncos are going to try and take away their strength, which is the pass rush, the Broncos defense has to do something. Jump those short routes. Play the corners a little bit closer to line of scrimmage and try to get them to jump these routes and take the ball away. But even as a series drive progresses, if they're going to be in 2nd and 5 or shorter, you got to find ways to take the ball away because they will throw the football. I mean, this is the NFL. Teams can't help themselves. They're going to want to throw the football. And when they do, if the pass rushers aren't able to get to the quarterback fast enough, that's where Surtain, Moss, Brandon Jones, Tulo, Hufanga, the middle line, whoever it might be, they got to take the ball away more, which is the exact thing that we went into Broncos training camp talking about, was that this Broncos defense had to create more turnovers. Vance Joseph has talked about it ad nauseum. So has Sean Payton. So have you and I. So that's the good news. What Vance Joseph is saying might be a bit of a revelation to you and I. Vance says that he's been seeing this. They've been talking about this all summer. It might be a kind of, well, at least for me, I was like, oh, yeah, now that you mention it, I'm kind of going back and I'm seeing this. So while it's a revelation to us, the fix is the same thing that we're talking about the Broncos defense needing to do this year. So the answer is still the same. This Broncos defense has to find ways to take the ball away. And they very nearly did. Right? Or on that first drive with Jordan Love, the knee got down just as Pat Surtain was stripping the football. Now, you know what close counts in, and it's not the NFL. So the fact of the matter is the Broncos did not force a turnover, and the Packers went on to march down the field, eat up the entire first quarter, and get a score. But what you can certainly see through 2 preseason games is that the Broncos defense is trying. It looks like they're trying very hard to take the ball away. They were successful in that endeavor against Atlanta, less so against Green Bay. But to Vance Joseph's point, not much on the defensive side of the ball worked against the Packers.
Our approach, in my opinion, was unengaged and a little bit lazy, right? It wasn't the right approach, even in pregame. So I felt that.
And it goes back to what I said on Monday after the Broncos preseason game, or the first show we had after that game. You know, this is a great opportunity for Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, Sean Payton, Darren Rizzi, the whole group, every coach on this staff, to be able to have license to go to their players and say, look, this is not good enough, and provide a wake-up call. You guys got to wake up. You can't just expect to live the charmed life that you led last year. You got to work harder for it. And it's what we talk about. It's not about maintaining from one year to the next. It really isn't. It's about improving. You got to improve. If you expect the Denver Broncos or the Broncos themselves expect to be exactly where they were last year and be in a position to take one step beyond that, they got to be a better football team than last year. So an opportunity, especially on the defensive side of things, to drive that point home. And as we start looking forward to this final preseason game against the Minnesota Vikings, that's the first thing I'm kind of looking out for, is this Broncos defense looking completely different than they did against Green Bay. Now, Minnesota will have something to say about the results, certainly. But the approach, the warm-ups, all that stuff that Vance Joseph is talking about, I know that's going to be better. That's the best case scenario coming out of the Green Bay game, is that it was a wake-up call. And then if all of that is better, then we get back to the business of the Broncos defense needing to create turnovers. They just have to. And now there's even more of a reason for them to be better at creating turnovers, given what Vance Joseph is saying about how teams are now adjusting and trying to counter what makes the Denver Broncos defense one of the best in the league, and that's their pass rush. 719-24-7. 1313. Take your thoughts on how the Broncos counteract some of these new ways that teams are playing them. You'll hear from Davis Webb coming up. Broncos are talking right now. I'll see if there's anything of note to share with you during this broadcast. But coming up next, the Big Ten led the way, and others are following with college football and these NFL players trying to come back. And the NFL is also trying to close the loop on all of this. So college football and the NFL working together to make the sport of football a better place for all. That's next. Looking for a unique experience here in Colorado Springs? How about Surf Shack? Let me tell you about Surf Shack. It's Colorado Springs indoor surf and entertainment venue. They have the Flow Rider Double Surf Simulator, but it's not a virtual simulator like you're on a board on water. I've never seen anything like it. You got a tiki bar, restaurant, sauna, hot tubs. You could play sand volleyball there. Really cool place. And this week we're giving you a great deal on checking out Surf Shack. For just $30, you get one guided ride on the Flow Rider and a $10 food credit. That's a $60 value for just $30. Check it out. KVOR.com, extrasports1300.com, and just click on Sweet Deals to take advantage of that. I don't know how many people, especially those people like me. I mean, I travel a lot, but born and raised in Colorado, surfing is not an opportunity that has been extended to me a lot in my life. And now it can be. The Surf Shack. Check out our Surf Shack sweet deal of the week. So the Big Ten, we have to give credit to the Big Ten. They were first. And this matters. You got to be first. Big Ten was the first yesterday to do their best to slam the door shut and not allow these players who have been cut by NFL teams seek a fifth year of eligibility and not come back to college football. And they did it by saying, we're going to suspend the coach. They found a workaround. We're not going to battle the judges anymore. We keep getting our butts kicked by them. We're going to punish the people that we can punish, the coaches and the schools and the athletic departments. You bring in one of these guys and they play for you. Your coach will be suspended for half of the remaining games, and you will receive a massive fine from the conference, which, as I said yesterday, begs the question, why don't they take this tact with all the other things that are broken in college football? You don't like the transfer portal? We'll fine you if you bring a player through the portal. Exceed your NIL budget that we all agreed to? Fine, suspension. Like, why can't they do that? If this is the workaround that they found, why haven't they been doing this sooner? And why haven't they been doing this for all the other myriad of issues that college football is facing? So the Big Ten did it first, but then the SEC, not to be outdone, said, well, we can't be first. Big Ten beat us there, but we don't like that. So we're going to go over the top. We're going to match the suspension thing. We're on board with that, but we're going to publish and let people know that the fine we are levying is half of your sports operating budget. I feel like that's one-upsmanship from Greg Sankey and the SEC. They're beaten to the punch by the Big Ten, and they said, you know what? We're going to come over the top with 50% of your operating budget. And just as a cherry on the top of the sundae, you can't vote anymore. When we get together in these dark rooms and we all wear our hooded robes and light candles and chant Gregorian chants and decide the future of our conference, you can't vote. You don't have a say. Pretty punitive, if you ask me. I don't know, too punitive. I mean, whatever gets, at this point, just whatever gets the job done. And then the NFL came in. So you have the two major conferences closing the door to these players, which, by the way, in the SEC, it gets a little complicated because Lane Kiffin's got like 20 of these guys. So Lane Kiffin might feel a little bit persecuted hearing all of this. I know you feel terrible for Lane Kiffin, just such a stand-up guy that why do bad things happen to good people? I know all of that. So LSU's going to have some figuring. They're going to have to figure some stuff out. But you have the two big conferences closing the door. And now you have the NFL closing the other door. and saying, if you go to college, go back to college and something doesn't work out there and you try to come back to us, you can't. And you're not going to go back into the draft either. If you're going back to college football, I guess the route would be you could become a free agent once your eligibility is up, but you're not going to be in a draft, and you're sure as heck not going to bounce back and forth, ping pong back and forth, looking for gainful employment. So this is one of those rare occasions, and it is quite rare, that the entire sport of football is coming together to make it a better place. Because these guys just need to, and I hope that they find it. I don't begrudge them trying every opportunity. If you had a dream, you would do everything, and you had a dream, right? When you were younger, you wanted to be this, you wanted to be that. How can you blame these players for doing everything they can to be able to make money playing football or make money playing basketball? That's not being talked about as much here, but women's basketball and men's basketball at the collegiate level, they're doing the same thing. The rules that they're putting out apply to those sports as well. Which, again, funny enough, the most adversely affected, Will Wade at LSU, who currently only has 4 players on his roster, 4 or 5, and was just waiting for failed G Leaguers to fill out his roster before LSU tips off their season. So they should just call this the LSU rule and be done with it. But I don't begrudge these players, okay? I don't. And I don't want to call them kids, but I'm going to use the analogy of, kids throwing a tantrum in the store. Who you really mad at? Who you really put that responsibility on? The kid or the parent? Again, these are not kids. They are not throwing a fit per se. But who are you looking to control things? The adult, the parent, SEC, NFL, Big Ten, the schools themselves. You guys got to do this. Because you can't begrudge these athletes, even though it looks bad, like they're, Brandon Sorsby and all of these athletes running to their local courtroom to try and get an injunction. It's not a great look. But again, this is their dream. This is what they want to do. So I don't blame them. I hate that the system exists, that they can exploit this, but I don't blame them for trying to exploit it. I really don't. That's why other entities need to step in. And it seems like they are. So good on them. But my remaining question here, or questions, where's the Big 12? Where's the ACC? Where's the Mount West? Because here's the thing. I know the NIL money is much better at an LSU or at an Ohio State, but there are other schools and other conferences that have NIL money. And I don't put it past any conference, and I'm not calling any one particular conference out. I'm just saying there might be a conference out there. There probably is a conference out there that are going, we're not at the big boys table. The Big Ten and the SEC, they're doing their own thing. The disparity in terms of the NIL money is out of whack. Is there some kind of market inefficiency, some kind of competitive advantage that we could take for ourselves? I'm not trying to put this idea in any conference commissioner's head, but I also think it's got to exist where you go, well, do we have to follow the SEC or the Big Ten? I know the firestorm is what you have to balance, right? Because you're going to be criticized. But another group of, another Power 4 team, maybe a group of 6 team or conference is like, hey, wait a minute, we could take these guys and they could be our ticket to the college football playoff. So what has to happen here is that every conference has to come out and do the same things. They just have to. You can't have, and that's the thing, is that everything going on in college sports right now, it's not airtight. Their rules are not airtight. And if you don't have every conference coming out and saying, we're not doing this, then it's not airtight. Then there's a path back here. Now, the SEC and the Big Ten could say, we're not going to, like the Brendan Sorsby thing, we're not going to play any teams that do that. But it becomes messy. It becomes complicated like everything else in college football. I just think the best course of action is just for every college football conference to come out and be like, you can't come here either. It would be a sign of solidarity that I don't think I have seen across college athletics in many moons. It might be unprecedented to get each conference acting independently, but also in lockstep with one another. I would fully expect there to be some kind of challenge in some courtroom somewhere in America on this. So this story's not over, right? Just because they shut the door. I don't know that they locked it. Did they lock the door? Did they double check? Did they deadbolt it? I don't know. But they are closing the door, and all the other conferences need to get in line here and need to do the same thing that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to do. And I get it. A lot of them take their cues from the SEC, Big Ten. There's an order of operations here. I get that. But now it's your turn. The rulers of college athletics have spoken. You should, and they've spoken to something that is a good thing. This is good. These players should not be able to come back to college football. Close your doors as well. So that's kind of the next thing. And then the inevitable challenge from somewhere in America. You can't do this. This is collusion. I'm sure something. There's a lawyer. There's a whole new cottage industry in when it comes to lawyers, right? That college sports have created all these opportunities with NIL. Now all these opportunities with the 5 years of eligibility to play 5 years. All of this kind of stuff that's popping up, and these lawyers are coming out of the woodwork and saying, "I'll challenge this. I'll be your lawyer." So you're going to have that. But the first step is everybody get in line here, do the right thing. And then here comes the challenge, and we'll see if that challenge has any grounds and whether the judges, everything that I have found says that this can work, that they have the power to do this. But I am not a district judge. So we'll see. Nor am I a lawyer. So we'll see what comes of that. On the same topic here, we really started to get into this late in yesterday's show, and I lament that we ran out of time because we were having a really good discussion about what the future of college athletics looks like here. And I made one comparison, got another comparison on the text line. I just want to separate the two because they're talking about two different things. Right? We had the text in that says this is going to become basically AAA. Right? And these guys are going to stay in school longer. They're going to develop, and they're going to be more ready to feed into the NFL. And maybe that's a good thing. Like, I don't hate that idea. that players are staying longer in college. And for the NFL, the benefit is these guys are more ready to go, especially at the quarterback position, than they have been maybe ever. But it's certainly going to, we always talk about college football being the feeder system, being the minor leagues, but now it's going to be, as we move forward, it's becoming even more fortified that is the case here. But the best part for the NFL, they don't have to prop it up. They don't have to subsidize it. But yet they're reaping the benefit. And players in AAA get paid. Players in the G League get paid. Now, players in college football get paid. So there's that, and that's a perfect way to put it. But when I brought up the English Premier League, that college football is moving longer term in that direction, that's a little bit different. The AAA thing is the relationship between the NFL and college football. When I brought up the Premier League, that's more regarding what college football itself is going to look like, independent of what impact it has on the NFL, just what college football is going to look like. And we're seeing these little signs along the way that I think we're heading towards the same model that the Premier League has, which is essentially we can get first of all, we get all the best clubs. And that's a subjective term, but the Premier League, it was, Arsenal, Manchester United, Manchester City, like it was the big brands. We get them all together in a league. We schedule each other. We go and take our television deal and peddle that, and we make more money, which then means we can spend more money than these other European leagues on players. So we will build up the best product, and it will just perpetuate itself forward. We'll have the best games that played with the best players and the biggest brands, and we'll make all the money. Right? And when this was happening decades ago, there was a lot of pushback that there would be teams that would be left behind. It's not good for the global game. Right? It's the same thing here with college football. If the Big Ten and the SEC kind of go and do their own thing, is that really what's best for all these other conferences? I don't think so. It's why the Protect College Sports Act is trying to tether the Big Ten and the SEC to everybody else. But this is the way we're going. The SEC wants to only play SEC schools. The Big Ten only wants to play Big Ten schools. They want the NIL budgets cap to be higher so they could still have a spending disparity between themselves and every other team in every other conference. Like, they're starting to set all of this up. But the one saving grace, if you will, with the Premier League is the idea of promotion and relegation. The idea that the little guy can still theoretically sit at the big boys table. You do well in these lower divisions. You work your way up like Ryan Reynolds' team, Wrexham. You keep working your way up, and you can play in the Premier League. And you can play right alongside Manchester United, Liverpool, all of these huge brands, and you can reap the financial benefit of it. Now, you got to quickly turn around and invest that money, because the statistics say that a team that the best bet for who's going to drop down and be relegated the next year is the team that just came up. But you have that ability. So what is going to be that path that the little guy, and not all of them are little, I don't want it to ACC Big 12, they're smaller than the Big 10 and the SEC. What is the path that they can be at that table? Well, right now it's the college football playoff. Right? But what if the SEC and the Big Ten create their own playoff? Because for now, they just want to load up as many of their teams in this playoff, and they'll expand it to any number. There is no limit to how many teams they'll put in the college football playoff as long as they can get Big Ten and SEC teams in there. But they still have the path for the smaller schools or the smaller conferences. It's still there. If they break away and do their own thing, do they leave the door open with a promotion relegation model? I don't think so, because that's not very American of us. But we're heading in this direction. In this, what the Big Ten did yesterday is another step in this. Even though we like what they did, it is still a sign that the Big Ten wakes up and goes, wait a minute, we can kind of handle this ourselves. We can do these things ourselves. What else can we do ourselves, right? It's that train of thought that runs off the tracks and gets us to a point where we have two, not FCS, FBS. Within FBS, we have two different levels. I think college football purists don't want that to happen. But if you're the SEC and the Big Ten, it's a chance for more money. It's a chance for a better product. 719-24-7, 1313. Take your thoughts. SEC suspended for half of the remaining games. Any coaches that play these NFL players, and 50% of your operating budget will be essentially taken away. You will have to pay out if an SEC team. Lane Kiffin, are you listening? Because they're talking to you, my friend. More Drive Time Sports after this. 719-24-7, 1313. That is the phone and text line. Feel free to call, but texting works as well. A few of you with thoughts on what's going on with college football, the news of the last couple of days. The Big Ten and the SEC have started what I hope to be a trend of conferences levying big-time punishments to their teams that decide that they want to play these guys who have been recently cut by NFL teams and give them another year of eligibility. Let's get to some of these texts. This from Scott and Florissant. As a Clemson alum, I was hoping the SEC would follow the Big Ten. A hopefully close game would have turned into a blowout on September 5th. If you're not familiar, Clemson plays LSU on September 5th. And then, you bring up, and it is an advantage, right? It is an advantage because these players get the highest level of coaching there is. They get in look at the Broncos facility. They get to hang out in those facilities, get, strength and conditioning and weight training and all of this kind of stuff. And then they come back. It's like the NFL is developing them for college football. Like, that is backwards. And yes, it would be an advantage. Now, we can't get too carried away. And I make the joke that Lane Kiffin has 30 of these guys on his roster. He doesn't. He has a few. But you put them in the right spots and they can sway a football game. So it is a competitive advantage. But really, even before you get to that, it's just, and I think what a lot of people are, latching onto here is it looks completely insane. Like, I don't think you even need to get to the competitive advantage part of this. I mean, you can, it's part of it, but I just think you look at it like this is backwards. Now, we're not doing this. This is the upside down world. We're not letting the NFL send players back to us. And the NFL is not sending anybody, to be fair. Their teams are making decisions to cut these guys, and these guys are coming back and knocking on the door of college football. But even you can bring up the competitive thing to support your argument, but the argument is very simply, this is crazy, right? We can't let this happen. And I would imagine that very conversation has taken place in the offices of every conference in America. Like, this is crazy. We can't let this happen. But yeah, you get let's say they don't put their foot down and all of a sudden, like what we haven't even been talking about quarterbacks going back. I read and you may say, well, they never would. Mike Florio today is throwing out the possibility that J.J. McCarthy, who the Broncos are set to face on Friday, may not make the final cuts on the Minnesota Vikings. Could you imagine if J.J. McCarthy went back? Now, I don't, maybe he's not eligible for whatever reason, but at this point, I just assume everyone is eligible until I'm told they're not. But think about that. An extreme case, but it doesn't have to be J.J. McCarthy. These rookie quarterbacks all of a sudden get to come back. That's when the firestorm would really go. If all of a sudden a team ended up with a quarterback that just got cut by an NFL team. So you put them, to Scott's point, you put them in high value positions. You put them at outside linebacker to get after the quarterback, or you put them at left tackle, or you put them at wide receiver. they could impact a game. So it is a competitive advantage. But do we really have to get that far? Can we just say this is dumb and we should not let this happen? Can we just say that and get things going here? I think we can. And I think that's basically what the SEC and the Big Ten are doing, is saying, like, this is crazy. And this is crazy. Like, that's the another thing that I keep going back to as well. Like, this is the line. This is where college football has gotten crazy. This is where the conferences need to band together and put their foot down and say no. The NIL spending, the flying from one coast to another for a regular season game, all of this kind of stuff. No, we're not going to put our foot down on this stuff, but NFL players coming back to college, that's a bridge too far. All the craziness they have allowed, and this is what they decide is too crazy even for college football. To wit, text coming in from the 719. In these years of the EPA, I can't believe that there is no noise from environmentalists about the fuel consumption and airline pollution of all these new conference teams flying coast to coast for conference games. Also has killed a lot of rivalry spirit that has made college sports what it is today or what it was. This all might backfire to the NCAA gurus. Hope not. Yeah, you ask me what the government is doing right now. Your guess is as good as mine. I am a little bit surprised. I know PETA's worried about lobsters. I saw that on social media the other day. The environmental people. Oh, you know what it is? It's data centers. That's what they're on. They're not on the airline pollution because it's the data centers. That's what's taking up all their attention. But to your second part, that's what I think that, especially for someone like me who is a proponent of both women's sports and Olympic sports at the collegiate level, gosh, I hope that they put that puzzle back together again. Somehow down the line. And I don't know what direction. Is it trying to put the genie back in the bottle to get college sports more regionalized? Like football and basketball, I just think we're past the point of no return. I just don't think that they're going to be regionalized anymore. I really don't. I think they're going to look for the best teams that they can play, and that's who they're going to play because that provides more value to ESPN and Fox. So college football and college basketball, I don't know that we're ever going back. But my thing was, what about the Olympic sports? You know, can baseball start having their regional rivalries again? Can swimming, can track, can softball? Like, can that be the compromise here? Like college football and college baseball, or college football and college basketball, you go to the NBA, NFL model because you want to make all the money in the world. But can we at least get you to put these other sports back together again because they're being destroyed here? And then these schools are saying we don't have enough money to support them. It's down the priority list for the folks in college athletics, no doubt about it. But I do hope that is a byproduct of all of this. Back after this. Welcome in. Thanks for stopping by, whether you're listening to the show on a variety of platforms, Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, the streaming apps of those two radio stations, the websites of those two radio stations, or if you're watching on social media, the live stream of the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram. We are on all of those places every single day. Couple of handy handles to follow in order to do it: at Extra Sports 1300, at 740 KVOR, and then I am personally at Gingerly Tweets on X and at Gingerwatch on Instagram, because yes, the red hair. If you would like to interact with the show, text line, phone line open, 719-247-1313, or you could drop a comment on the live stream that you are watching. You know, in a world of seemingly perpetual bad news, and I don't just mean overall in the world, I mean in sports, and in the world of sports that are always looking for money. How do we make more money? How do we make our product worse but somehow make more money? It's really remarkable how leagues and teams are able to pull that off, right? We make the product worse by adding, like the NFL, week 18, a 17th game. It's worse. The product is worse. That week is terrible. But yet we make a lot more money because of it. All my bad ideas never make any money. How does that work? But, even in the world that we live in, once in a while, there's something that comes down. And actually, in the last 48 hours, do we not have a couple of things? We were just talking about Big Ten, SEC, no NFL players, please. Thank you. That's a good thing. That's the thing that would actually benefit them monetarily or competitively, that they're saying, no, this isn't right. And now the NFL is doing something. Adam Schefter reporting that the NFL says no more Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl games are dead. Long live the Pro Bowl games. Instead, they are still going to name Pro Bowlers, and that will be the honor. That is the thing. You are a Pro Bowler. Not a Pro Bowler like Lanes. You're a Pro Bowler. This is long overdue, but I will applaud the decision nonetheless. And look, the NFL is in the worst spot of all these leagues. They just can't put on a good product. They can't. They have no way of going about it, because the guys that are playing in the game will not play like they do in the regular season or in the playoffs. They just can't replicate what we love about football. They can't replicate it. They've never been able to replicate it. And so they tried to lean into, okay, it's not really our game, so now we're going to play flag football. And everyone's like, well, wait, I still, the reason I watch these giant 300-pound human beings is not to play flag football. Flag football is gaining more in popularity. I'm very excited to see where flag football goes over the coming years, but it's a completely different sport. I don't want these behemoths to play that sport. I want them to play contact tackle football. And when you don't give me that, I'm going to get upset and I'm not going to watch anymore. So finally, the NFL, despite greed that knows no bounds, they have decided we're not doing this anymore. And the benefit of this is, one, we don't have to have this garbage product crammed down our throats. And the second thing is, being a Pro Bowler actually means something. When we have these Hall of Fame debates, the last thing I want to hear anybody tell me is how many Pro Bowls Eli Manning made. I don't care. Shedeur Sanders was a Pro Bowler recently. He's not even the starting quarterback of his own team. And I get it. I disagree with the decision as well for a variety of reasons. But the fact of the matter is Shedeur did not thoroughly outplay Deshaun Watson, which opened the door for Todd Monken and the Browns to make this terrible, terrible decision. But Shedeur has been a Pro Bowler. Russell Wilson, post-Broncos career, has been a Pro Bowler. Because it was, well, you got to show up. Well, now you don't have to show up. So we could say the Pro Bowl quarterbacks in the AFC are Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Bo Nix. And we can recognize those guys as the best quarterbacks instead of saying who RSVP'd. That's what the Pro Bowl has become. Who's going to RSVP? Well, you're a Pro Bowler now. Congratulations. And it creates just this thing that I don't think should be considered when it comes to deciding who goes in the Hall of Fame or talking about the accolades of a player. I could not care less, legitimately could not care less how many Pro Bowls anybody in the NFL has played in. I don't care. And I'm not going to look at that as, oh, they are really good. They made X number of Pro Bowls, because I think it's a sham and a farce. But now you have the opportunity. I don't know what they're going to do with the All-Pro thing here. I feel like they got to figure something out. But now that being a Pro Bowler is going to mirror in some form or fashion All-Pro, although this will be very fan-driven. So I don't know if it's accomplishing. I don't know that I'm going to care. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I don't know that I'm going to care ever how many Pro Bowls a player made or how many times they were named to the Pro Bowl or a Pro Bowler. I don't think I'm ever going to care. But I'm glad that they're not doing this game. And at least the people who are voted on as a Pro Bowler are not who's left. It's still going to be a popularity contest. And there may be some players, but that actually might make it better. You know, we love arguing with our fellow fans, right? So this is the opportunity to do it. Fans are going to vote on the Pro Bowl teams, and it's going to be great fodder for you and I to debate, oh, wait a minute, Bo Nix? No way Bo Nix is one of the best three quarterbacks in the AFC this year. So I won't care if they make the Pro Bowl, but I will argue till the end of time who deserves to be one and who doesn't. So it'll become good fodder for, you know, Twitter and sports talk radio shows, and then we won't have to go through this charade of having whatever it is the Pro Bowl games have turned into. So this is good. This is good from the NFL. Well done, NFL. Now, Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA follow suit. I don't want it to stop here. I know that the NFL has a bigger all-star game problem than any other league. I want them all gone. I want them all gone. They are not necessary. They have decreased in watchability. We saw with the NHL when they did the Four Nations, that was the death of their all-star game. Any hope to keep alive the all-star game and have any interest was out the window, because they're like, wait a minute, you can do international play in the middle of the season? In a non-Olympic year? Yes, please give us that. And then the NHL's like, well, we're going to go back to the all-star game format. The heck you are. More Four Nations. Give me a different Four Nations. I don't care. So the NFL has the worst problem with this. I would argue that the NHL is probably next up because, again, the physicality is just not replicated, and that's part of what we like about the NHL. But I'll say this too, NBA, Major League Baseball, and Major League Baseball has the best all-star game by far. It's not even close. But it needs to go too. They just all need to go. The All-Star game is an antiquated notion. It doesn't mean nearly what it used to mean. The players don't want to go, right? By and large, give them their time off. Let's take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather, and get back to the regular season business. We don't need something shoved into that window. Trust me. We love college football and the NFL, probably the two most popular sports in our country. They only play once a week. We can last 3 days without baseball or without basketball, so the players can have a little bit of a rest. We can reset and get ready for the rest of the season. But the answer is money. What's the question? They make money off of this. But the NBA, they're tinkering, and it's like, I like it better, but it's still, They're still not doing it right. The only thing that they did do right from one year to the next is they got Kevin Hart the heck out of there. Next time I hear from that guy will be too soon. They just need to get rid of all the All-Star games. It's just like, tell me, am I wrong on this? Do you want All-Star games? Now, international competition, right, with the 4 nations in the NHL. And this is why I say that the NBA is kind of like circling around a good idea, but they haven't quite pulled off the execution. What we want to see, the only thing that left that I want to see from the NBA is I want Team World versus Team USA, not in 3-on-3. Don't break up the teams. Give me the best 12, 13, 14 American NBA players and give me the 12 best international players. And I know what the result of that is. Jokic and company are going to mop the floor with the Americans. Like, I know that's going to be the case. Because, yes, there are more American players in the NBA than there are international players. But when you get all the best international players, look, you got Wemby, you got Shea, you got Jokic, you got Luka, you got Giannis. That's 5 better players than what the U.S. would bring. And maybe that's part of why they try to, like, be half in and half out, why they got a half-baked idea when it comes to trying to capitalize on how much we want to see international competition, because they don't want, even though Adam Silver's mind, it seems to constantly be in China and what's best for the product overseas, his bread is still buttered here in North America. So maybe he doesn't want the American players to be shown up because maybe it will have a negative impact on how Americans view the NBA. I would push back if that is a real fear. Like, we are, and it's part of the reason why these all-star games don't work anymore. The world is smaller. We were talking yesterday about how popular the Premier League is in the United States. They're on the other side of the Atlantic, and people like watching it here. Now, it's not as popular as some of our other, homegrown sports, if you will. But like, it's popular. We have streaming apps. We can access. Remember during COVID, like, we were watching Turkish dart competitions. Like, we can find our sports entertainment. There's an app for that. And we can find the players that we like the most. We can buy NBA League Pass and see all of these dudes all the time, any night that we want to. There's not the novelty anymore of, and baseball was the best at this because the American League used to not play the National League. And it was like a novelty to be able to see a Yankee in Coors Field. It's not a novelty anymore. They visit every year. The Rockies play the Yankees every year. But the world, like we here in Colorado love no other athlete more than we love a guy who is not born here, who is not American. We don't care that Nikola Jokic is Serbian, do we? He's a Nugget. And we saw in the Olympics, we'll kind of root against him. We'll root for America. I don't think it damages the product because guess what? You can tune in this Friday to NBC and see these international stars who are putting it to the Americans. It's just times change, don't they? Times change. All-star games. Nobody takes it seriously. The novelty has worn off. I think the other leagues should take a cue from the NFL. NFL had to be first, not only because they are king, but also because the NFL had the worst all-star game problem of anybody. But if I have my druthers, and I have yet to have a single druther over the course of my life, it feels like, but if I have my druthers, all all-star games are gone. The only way I'm willing to listen is if you're going to do a true international competition. And even then, I think, part of what makes, we live in Olympic City, USA, right? We understand the Olympic movement. I almost wonder if, and I fear this, I don't ever want to get tired of international competition. One has to wonder if the novelty would wear off of international competition if they did it. Right now, we're not to that point, and maybe it's a long way to go till we get there. But I worry, right? The more and more we see it, the more it loses its cachet. So better yet, if you're going to have an all-star game, then try to make it international competition. U.S. versus the world, we love that stuff. But better yet, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. We see all these guys. You telling me, and here's what I'll put in front. Do you ever sit up at night in a cold sweat and go, man, I don't think I've seen enough LeBron James. I need more LeBron. I need to see him as much as possible. I don't think I can make a better argument than that. Do you need another reason to see LeBron James in your daily life, in your year? No. No all-star games. Just get on with it. Let's take a break, come back, have the rest of the season. Well done, NFL. Hopefully you are a shining light for all of these other leagues to follow. Take your thoughts. No more Pro Bowl games. All right by you? We don't agree on anything anymore. We agree that Dolly Parton was awesome, and we agree that the Pro Bowl games have got to go, right? Can we get 100% on this? Surely there's not a dissenting voice. If you want to argue with me on the other all-star games, then let's have at it. But come on, this is a no-brainer here. This is easy. No more Pro Bowl games for the NFL. Back after this. Seems like I am truly getting the unanimous support for the abolishment of the Pro Bowl games. Aaron calling in during the break says he doesn't need them. I think he's with me on the getting rid of all the All-Star games. And he brought up a good point. It just feels like an interruption, like this necessary interruption. And I feel like if the players want their days off and we need to reset a little bit, then just don't have something. Like there's this countdown to it. And it's like, well, it's a countdown to something that we don't even like. Or I don't even like. Give the players, let the player, I mean, they all fly on private jets anyway. Let them go jet off to somewhere for 2 days and then let's get them back and get on with it. Or I don't know that this completely, solves the issue. I don't know that I'm looking out for the players in this regard, but you have this, Fanatics Fest thing. It's basically like Sports Comic-Con or SportsCon, right? That, LeBron was the focal point of it, but, can you do something like that? Can you bring kind of a road show and stop in a different city every year and bring some of these athletes? Because that's the one thing that I do think about as far as the fans go with All-Star games. And I've been to 2 Major League Baseball All-Star games. I've been to an NBA All-Star game. And I will tell you that the level of access that you get, it's not about watching the players all together. The amount that you can interact with those athletes is better than it is during the regular season. So that's the one tiny caveat that I would put on all of this is that the Pro Bowl games, as silly as they were, if you got to go down there, like you were going to be, and we're thinking of the kids, right? Like I don't need to, despite what you may think, I don't need to be near Patrick Mahomes, right? Like it's good. I'll say what's up to him if I ever see him, but like it for the kids, because that was, I remember the first All-Star game I went to at Coors Field, being able to go to, I remember where I was in line for a batting cage that they had at the Denver Convention Center. And I was in line and there was a little kid in front of me, smaller than I was, and his dad was throwing to him. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know who the dad is. It was Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens took his son to the Fan Fest and was pitching to his kid in the batting cages. And then, of course, Roger Clemens would like high five, us in line or say, hey, or, whatever. But like, can you do something like that? Because that's not the game. That's separate from the game. But can you have an event, and even Fanatics Fest, the prices are ridiculous to go to that thing. But like, can you create something to give kids the opportunity to be in closer proximity to their favorite athletes? And is that as necessary as it used to be with social media? I mean, you don't get to interact with them, but maybe you feel like you can say something to them. That would be the one thing. Can we find something to, because that's where our love of sports starts, right? I mean, all of us have a story, like I just said, about Roger Clemens. I even went to John Elway used to have a charity golf tournament, and it was at Inverness. And my dad took us, and I met Charles Barkley, Mario Lemieux, Elway, of course, Shanahan. And I remember as a kid another really cool moment with an athlete was, I'm watching this group and it was like an all Broncos group. All Broncos players. I think it might have been even Elway was in there, maybe not. But so I'm watching them on this hole. My dad and my brothers and I turn to follow them to the next one, but we're getting out ahead of them. And I'm wearing a Vinny Castilla jersey, and I hear from behind me, "Hey, Castilla." And I turn around, and it's Brian Greasy, who, think about the time we were in. Brian Greasy was the next Broncos quarterback. He was next in line after John Elway. And look, I'm not, and I didn't say this to him, not a fan of the Broncos, but I mean, at that time, it didn't get much bigger than Brian Greasy and the hope that the people around Colorado had for Brian Greasy taking over. So he says, "Hey, Castilla," turn around, and we're walking to the next hole, and Brian Greasy could not have been nicer. Made a young Ryan Kaufman's day to get to interact like that, and I was able to do that with Charles Barkley. My brother, and I want to embarrass him while I'm at it, he literally chased the late Gary Carter to a portalet to get his autograph. So I was more about talking to the athletes. Now another piece of the puzzle falls into place on what makes, Ryan Kaufman. I wanted to talk to the players. My brother wanted just the autographs. It was purely transactional with him. He followed Gary Carter. Gary Carter had one foot into the portalet, and my brother got to him. Now, maybe that kind of close encounter can never happen again, and maybe my brother was responsible for it. I actually believe that was the time. People say it was the malice at the palace. It wasn't. It was when my brother, my younger brother, ambushed Gary Carter, met an Expo great when he was trying to simply get into the portalet. That was the moment where sports collectively said no more. We are letting these unwashed masses too close to us. But those are the kind of events and moments that I think are great, and I want to preserve, and I think we're losing some of those. So if the NFL or any of these leagues, if they decide, what, All-Star Game's not for us, can you try to create an event like that to allow fans to get closer to you and be able to interact with you more than they can when they go and watch you play a game? So that was one good thing about these all-star events, was how close you were to the players, how you got to interact with them, get their autograph, take a picture, whatever the case may be. But that's, again, not the game. Right? AI. Not a game. We're talking about FanFest. I like those things. But with Fanatics having a monopoly over it, they're charging ridiculous prices, and it's pricing out the average fan. Not to go, too far down that road, but maybe these leagues can create something like that for the end of the season. Maybe you're not going to get all the biggest names, but look, the Pro Bowl, you didn't. The NBA All-Star Game, you didn't. You're not getting these guys. Can you get some of them at a function for that? But that just coincided with the All-Star Game. The All-Star Game itself, I could lose them all. Tucker says that he's with me at least on the Pro Bowl games. And then they especially went bad in Tucker's opinion, when they went to the flag football format. But he still wants, especially baseball, to remain. Baseball, I believe, still the best. Another thing I don't like is in football and baseball, especially the NFL playing the AFC and NFC, I don't like that until the Super Bowl, like it used to be many years ago, and with baseball the same way. That's interesting. But you know what would happen, Tucker, if we did that? So Tucker is essentially saying, like, part of what has sapped the interest level with, and let's take baseball, what has sapped some of the interest level in the Midsummer Classic is the fact that there's interleague play. And now interleague play is everybody. Before, when it was first interleague, it was like, oh, the Rockies are going to play the A's, the Rangers, right? They're going to play the Mariners. And now it's like the Yankees are showing up every other year. The Red Sox are showing up every other year. Like it's just like the NFL or the NBA. Everybody's playing everybody. If you don't like that, and sports went back to keeping the conferences, the leagues separate, that would increase. That would get people more invested again. But that's baseball, right? Can you do that with the NHL? That would be a radical change, at least for most people now, because we've always had the Avalanche playing every team in the East. We've always had the Nuggets playing every team in the East. So that would certainly help the All-Star games. There's no doubt about that. But then the debate would come up. Would you be, robbing Peter to pay Paul? Would you be affecting the regular season? Not for you, Tucker, because you're on board with this, but for the majority of fans. Would you be ruining the main product for them because they want these matchups, these interconference matchups, interleague matchups, in order to save your one event that happens in the middle of every year? Tom says, I don't mind a baseball all-star game, but give us World Baseball Classic style tourney. And that's what I said. Like, if you're going to have an all-star game, and I've been saying this with the NBA for a couple of years now, and the NHL showed us the way with the Four Nations. That was unbelievable. And that turned out to be a perfect precursor to the all-timer we got in the Olympics. I mean, it was perfect. It could not work out any better for the NHL. If only they were a league capable of taking advantage of such momentum. But if you're going to have an all-star game, I very much, and in football, this would be impossible. Like, football's on their own island. They just kind of got to get rid of it, and because there's not the international, you don't have the players. But in baseball, hockey, and basketball, you do. So lean into that. NBA's circling around it. They just won't go full bore into what they should be doing. I just think the easiest thing. There are pros and cons to everything, right? But I just think get rid of them all. I don't need them. 719-24-7-1313 back after this. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Great conversation regarding the NFL getting rid of the Pro Bowl games. We'll reset that topic at the top of the hour here, but I was thinking about this earlier today, and the big news in the world, not just in not the sports world necessarily, was the passing of Dolly Parton yesterday. Today, Tim Curry passed away. A lot of people know him, of course, from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I know him more as It. That's my Tim Curry project that I look back on most fondly. But the conversation regarding Dolly Parton, and I'm not the person to do that. You know, I don't think I saw any of her movies. I'm certainly familiar with her music, but what stuck out to me in hearing people who were fans of Dolly Parton or just knew her better was this idea that everybody liked her. Like everybody. You can't find, and it's not just because yesterday and, you know, not the time to air your grievances over over somebody, but like Dolly Parton was universally beloved. And it is a concept that in the two worlds that I live in my professional life, the political realm and the sports realm especially, that's such a foreign concept to me. That somebody famous can be liked by everyone. And isn't that, just before I get into what I wanted to discuss, isn't that amazing? What a loss to lose Dolly Parton, somebody who was beloved by everybody. And part of the reason is because she was a genuinely amazing human being. Not only was she talented, but her philanthropic works are, I mean, I went down a rabbit hole last night, you know, reading about some of the stuff that she did. Just an amazing, amazing human being. So it makes sense that she was universally beloved, because how could you not love everything that Dolly Parton was about if you didn't at least appreciate her talent, which I appreciate her talent, but I'm not as appreciative as others are. I wouldn't call myself a Dolly Parton fan, but it's remarkable to me how, as a human being and human being in a public light, being liked by everybody, forget liked, loved. That's just, even for, you know, normal human beings. Like, I don't think I can ever hope for, when I pass away, for everyone to say something, well, Ryan, you know, everybody loved him. Like, I can't even, there's no way that's going to be the sentiment when I pass away. To be that good of a person, but also in today's day and age, like, we look for a reason. It's not one of our best qualities, but we certainly look for a reason to flip on somebody, to say, you know what, I don't like that, I'm going to complain about it. And it happened with Dolly Parton. Happens with, I think, pretty much every other human being on the planet. But I had this conversation with somebody earlier today, and I wanted to bring it to the airwaves. Am I missing somebody in the sports world? Can you think of an athlete universally beloved? And it's difficult, right? Because we have our rivalries. If you're wearing a certain uniform, we say we don't like you. We don't want success for you. We may at times say that we hate you. But I think we can even go past that and say, okay, we all have our rivalries. We all have our sports hate. But like really drill down into it. Is there a respect there? Is there an admiration there? Is there an athlete that would do that in all time? So if you want to go back beyond my days and find somebody, then I'm all for it. But somebody, because here's the other trick. Like Dolly Parton was a global superstar. So to achieve that level of fame, to be that recognizable, that known, and be universally beloved. Like, you know, Rudy and Brian Piccolo, like, yeah, like maybe they kind of count because of the, you know, the movies, and even if you were around in that time and you know the story of Rudy, like those are, but they never had that level of, but like I'm talking about a superstar, which Dolly Parton was in her world. A superstar. Is there a superstar athlete that is universally beloved? I was able to find one guy that I will put up, like I would just submit him for your approval. Steph Curry. Because think about it. Again, I'm saying like what makes sports great are rivalries, right? So there may have been times when he hit the Nuggets with a sleepy night that you maybe say, I hate that guy. But do you? You just hated what he did. He hit the Nuggets with the sleepy night. I think Steph Curry would be my submission for this. Because the other thing that you may say, like, wait a minute, I hated the Warriors. I remember hating the Warriors vividly. And I will ask you, was that Steph or was that Kevin Durant? Did you hate the Warriors because Kevin Durant joined them? And did you really extend that to Steph? Because I feel like you may not like Draymond, you may not like Kevin Durant, but it was almost as if like, I hate the Warriors, I hate that they're a dynasty, but do you hate Steph Curry? Well, no, I don't hate Steph Curry. He's a remarkable athlete in that way. Even if he's not universally beloved, he's about as close as we get. And that in and of itself is a huge win. That's the best one I can come up with. Take your thoughts on Steph. And if you have one that you want to bring to the table here. But it's just the things I heard coming from people yesterday in the wake of Dolly Parton's passing, like I just don't, in my normal life, in the worlds that I live in, I don't hear that. There's somebody always to hate on. Wasn't it? And it happens fast too. Wasn't it just a few weeks ago that Sophie Cunningham was America's sweetheart? Not anymore. And that's part of it too, right? Like Dolly Parton, I think it's because she was just such a phenomenal person that it wasn't an act. It wasn't manufactured. She wasn't always looking for the right thing to say. She just said the right things because she was awesome. Like, I feel like a lot of athletes don't think about the right thing to say in a situation. And I'm not focusing this on Sophie Cunningham or anybody in particular. I'm just saying in general. They step in it with their comments, especially in the era of podcasting and social media. or they try too hard to always say the right thing. And then you don't like them for that because they're not real. I remember a Broncos quarterback that was pretty universally liked in his other locale. And then he got here and that table turned quickly. And what was the thing with Russell Wilson? It's fake. That was the claim. He's doing all of this for PR. He's doing it all for show. And we even hate on people. He's saying the right things, and we didn't like him for it. I'll take your thoughts. 719-24-7, 1313. Coming up next, we'll reset with the three stories that are driving the show. We're also getting closer to finding out the fate of Jonathan Cooper, both legally and in the football world. Talk about that. One more hour to go on this Wednesday. Hope you hang in there just a few minutes, and I'll be right back. I promise. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening to the show, Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR. You're streaming the show on those two stations, streaming apps. You're watching the show anywhere you scroll. I certainly do appreciate it. I have found out, and this is a bit of a revelation that has just come to me in the last 5 minutes while I've been away. I realized that 99.9% of the time on this show, I am correct. What I say into this microphone is absolutely the unequivocal truth. And you know how I know this? Because I am taking it from all directions when it comes to this universally liked. So I know that I am wrong, and I will admit that I am wrong because you guys have come up with such better ones. Like I'm almost embarrassed. Now I will say, and if you're just tuning in, I asked, in the wake of the passing of Dolly Parton, and the thing that has stuck out to me is how universally beloved she was. Right. And it's something in the world we live in, the sports world, that it's not common. We always find a reason to not like an athlete, even beyond, I don't like the team he plays for, or they're on my rival. Like, we find ways. And I thought the closest thing, and I probably should have said going right now, because I will say that a lot of the suggestions I am getting are previously. So that was my mistake. But even then, whether it's on the phone line, on the text line, on the in the comments, like, you guys are way better at this. I'm wrong. I still think that Steph Curry is pretty liked, but anti-Steph Curry people are coming out of the woodwork. I didn't realize that was the case. I thought that as far as an athlete right now, I thought Steph Curry was a pretty good one. I'm finding out that I am wrong about this. And I am certainly finding out that Steph Curry, as close as universally beloved as he is, doesn't hold a candle to some of the people that you got way better ones. So, or was it my plan all along to bait you into interacting with the show? Am I the puppeteer? No. I had other things on my mind, and I don't know that I thought this thing totally through, but that's why you are there to pick me up. So I'll get to those. I promise. The comments on the live stream, those of you who called in, because I'm glad to know there are more. And even one of my coworkers said something to me earlier, and I completely ignored it. Not at the time. I'm like, you're absolutely right. And then I didn't even mention it in the last segment. So, moral to the story, the amount of reaction I am getting arguing with me says that I'm right 99% of the time, because you don't feel compelled to argue with me on things. And the second thing is I screwed up. Did not have the right answer. So we'll get into that. You guys got some really good ones, and we'll get into that. And be thinking about it, if you're just tuning in, Dolly Parton, unfortunately passing away, the biggest legacy that she will leave, liked by everybody, beloved by everybody. Is there an athlete, past or present, that can come close to saying that? So think, let me know. Go ahead and tell me how wrong I am about Steph Curry being even in the consideration for that. 719-247-1313. But I do want to get to what we normally do at this time each and every day, and that's hit you with the three biggest stories of the day. We call it What's Driving the Show. All right, let's start by hearing from Broncos defensive coordinator Vance Joseph.
We've seen how offenses see us, right? So lots of boots, lots of misdirection, outside runs more often than not, match protection passes, quick game. Teams don't want to lose first down because if they do lose first down, our rush kind of takes, it comes alive. So I think that game was an example of what is coming in the future.
Very, very interesting comments from Vance Joseph about that topic, about the way that teams are going to adjust and play against the Broncos defense this upcoming season. And it makes all the sense in the world, right? And then you start to go back through the Green Bay game and you're like, oh, yeah, I did see this, didn't I? So kudos to Vance Joseph for putting this all on our radar. But, yeah, I see it. And it makes all the sense in the world. The best part of the Broncos, period, the best part of their team is their ability to get to the quarterback. They're one of the best teams at this. So offenses will certainly try to find a way around it. And I guess that is not the fact that's illuminating. It's how they're going to do it. And also the fact that Vance Joseph is wise to it. Vance is like, I see what you're doing. But what if, here's the what if question for the upcoming Broncos season. What if teams are successful in that endeavor? What if they are able to make these adjustments? Short passing game, outside zone run rather than running inside, all of these little things that can get them a good gain on first down so they're not even in second and long, let alone third and long. What can the Broncos do to counteract that? Well, first and foremost, they can stop them, right? That's the obvious one. Don't let them get to the outside and run it. But I think this is where we circle back to what the story has been with this Broncos team, this defense going into training camp. The biggest question surrounding them was, are they going to generate more turnovers? If offensive teams are going to be a little bit more successful in avoiding Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, although Jonathan Cooper is doing his level best to make sure that teams don't have to deal with him. More on that coming up. Jonah Ellis, Zach Allen, right? The list goes on. All of these pass rushers that the Broncos have, let's say that teams are a little bit more successful in it. Well, what can the Denver Broncos defense do? Take the ball away. Force fumbles. Pick off those passes. Jump those short routes. I think this goes back to the need for the Broncos defense to create more turnovers than they did a year ago. Because it's one thing for teams to go into a game saying, hey, we can't get into second down and long or third down and long against this team. Now they've had an offseason to figure out how they're going to do it. So now the Broncos, and the good news if you're a Broncos fan is that Vance Joseph says, we've been talking about this all summer. So they started to see this towards the end of the season, which is maybe why the Broncos didn't look quite as effective, as good, I should say, as a football team down the stretch of last season. So they saw some of these things. They're working on them. But to me, it circles back to this Broncos defense must create more turnovers this year than they did a year ago, because maybe their sack numbers are not going to be where they were one season ago. Story number 2, also out of the National Football League. And how about this? The NFL got it right. They crushed it. They nailed it. No more Pro Bowl games. The breaking news of the afternoon. They will still name Pro Bowlers. So if you're going to lament the fact that you're not able to vote on the Pro Bowl, you still can. They will just say, here are our Pro Bowlers, and then that's it. The NFL season will truly end on Super Bowl Sunday. No more games of any kind will be played till the next preseason. And I think this is a terrific idea. It doesn't make up for adding an extra game or adding another playoff team in each conference or the kickoff rules or any of the other bad things that the NFL has done recently. It doesn't override those, but man, this is a win. This is a win for the NFL. Finally, they have come to their senses and realized that we do not care at all about this. In fact, it's not just that we don't care. It's a blight on your sport to have this every year. Now they're not going to have it. It's gone. And I will say, I like this idea so much, I think every league should look at this. I don't want any more All-Star games. I just think the novelty has worn off. We have more access to the best athletes in the world when it comes to watching them on a nightly basis. We all have 18 different streaming platforms, NBA League Pass, NFL Sunday Ticket, the baseball package. Like, we can see all these guys. It's not that novelty has worn off. The American League versus National League, AFC versus NFC, East versus West, that novelty has worn off. And especially in the case of the NFL, but the NHL has dealt with this. The NBA has done this to themselves, because if they just simply play defense, they would put out actually a pretty good product, but the players refuse to. So in 3 of the 4 major sports, you're not even watching a product close to what the regular product is. So I understand why some of you are saying, well, wait a minute on the baseball All-Star game. Okay, I'm fine with losing it. But I understand that baseball is still finding a way to make that game relevant and to make it look like the baseball that you watch on a daily basis. But as far as I'm concerned, they all can go. We could just take a couple of days off, let the players get away, and then get back to the rest of the regular season. But the one league that must do that above all others was the NFL. So credit to them for doing that. And while I'm giving out kudos, how about some kudos to the SEC, who has fallen in line, following what the Big Ten did yesterday, and have they themselves said these players that were cut by NFL teams that want a 5th year of eligibility, you can't play for us. They have taken what the Big Ten has done and said, yes, you in the SEC, Lane Kiffin. I cannot emphasize enough how this is directed right at Lane Kiffin. Not because they don't like it, Lane Kiffin, but because Lane Kiffin was the one that's like, bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses from the NFL training camp, and I'll put them on my team. But their coaches will be suspended for half of the remaining games after they play a player that was in an NFL training camp this year. And they will fine the team, the athletic department, 50% of the operating budget of that team. And remember, this goes beyond football. Our minds are on football, but this will apply to women's basketball and men's basketball. And they may have to do it, I don't know, for baseball and stuff. I know it's not as big of a problem there, but we'll see down the line. But this does apply to men's and women's basketball as well. 50% of your operating budget. And you don't get a vote. Your voting rights are revoked. So the SEC, I think, maybe felt like, dang it, we were beaten to the punch by the Big Ten. Let's go above and beyond. Like, yeah, we're doing what the Big Ten is doing, but we're also, let us tell you about our fine. And let us tell you this other thing that we're doing that the Big Ten didn't mention. So that SEC Big Ten rivalry, even when it comes to punishing their own members, it knows no bounds. They will constantly compete with one another. But look, this is good. Good for the SEC, better on the Big Ten for being the first to do it, taking the lead on it, providing a blueprint. Now I need everybody else. Now I need everybody else. Big 12, ACC, Pac-12, Mountain West. Like, let's go here. Everybody needs to be in lockstep on this. Because if everybody's not in lockstep and everybody doesn't put, punishments in place, guess what you're going to get? I promise you, you'll at least get a conference that will sit there in the corner doing that fingers thing that Mr. Burns does and going, wait, we can be the only game in town for these guys. We can get these guys on our teams, and we can get to the college football playoff. Don't think for a second that there's not a conference commissioner thinking about that. Don't think for a second there's not. So we're going to need all the conferences to go ahead. I get how it goes. Big Ten and the SEC go first. Everybody follows. Everybody needs to follow. This can't happen. This door can only swing out. It can't swing back in. Big Ten, SEC. I've seen the ACC, Big 12, and Pac-12. And this is just what I've seen. I'm not saying that the other conferences haven't already intimated that they're going to do this. Those are the conferences that I know are considering following suit. But everybody needs to. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. That is what is going on in the world of sports today that I think is very important. How about what's going on in the world of the markets? That is important to you. For that, I turn to Rick Stevens of FRS Financial Group. Each day, he gives us Rick's best guess. We call it the RBG report because it sounds cool. Rick, what have you got today?
Well, today, Ryan, oil prices pulled back a little bit. Economic sanctions against the Iranian regime. Those falling oil prices also contributed to a drop in yields on U.S. Treasuries. And with the pullback in those oil prices and the Treasury yields, our stock markets were in the green today as all three posted some gains ahead of more economic news that's scheduled for Wednesday, as well as our Fed Chair Kevin Warsh's address to the Jackson Hole Symposium on Friday. So your RBG is that Chairman Warsh will not necessarily reveal the Fed's plans for September, but he's most likely going to provide some guidance that points to no increase in that Fed funds rate.
Thanks, Rick. That's Rick Stevens of FRS Financial Group right here in Colorado Springs. Start planning your future today at frsfinancialgroup.com.
Products and investment services offered through LPL Financial, LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. FRS Financial Group is a name used by independent advisors associated with LPL Financial, LLC.
Coming up next, your picks for a universally beloved athlete. All right, let's do this. Clearly, you're better at this than I am. Is there a universally beloved athlete? Dolly Parton passing away yesterday, and you can't find a single person that does not like Dolly Parton. Not one. Trust me, I checked. Everybody loves her. Is that phenomenon even possible? Forget just sports with famous people. I think it can't. I don't think that can happen if you have fame. But that's how remarkable she was. And I said, today, going right now, the one I would offer up would be Steph Curry. And Eric on the Facebook stream says, hell no to Curry. I can't even stand looking at him. Okay, well, then Curry's off the table. I had somebody called in. I'm sorry, I don't think I caught the gentleman's name. That said, I was making him angry with I didn't mean to. I thought Steph Curry was liked. What is this? Eric, you're always great about commenting. You're very opinionated, and I appreciate that. Why don't you like Steph Curry? I didn't think it was a terrible suggestion, but I'll start here with one of my own coworkers, Celia Sage. You hear her on Magic FM each and every night. She does a terrific job. She overheard this conversation. She's like Gabby Douglas, right? And it got me thinking, you know what? The USA gymnastics team, think about how much we love just Olympians in general. I'm sitting here in Olympic City, USA, and my first thought was not an Olympian. We love Olympians. So she said Gabby Douglas, and that's better. So props to Celia for that. It's a rare L for Ryan. If you listen to this show, you know I don't take many L's on predicting which quarterbacks are going to be good in the NFL or which athletes are universally beloved. I think there's something to that. Michael Phelps? Did we dislike Michael Phelps? I don't think I ever did. With the weed thing, did people turn on him a little bit? But I think Olympians would be a good place to go. Caller had Nadia Comaneci, Carrie Strug. We love Carrie Strug. But also we have to, raise it up a little bit, too. And I'm not saying with those two athletes you have to, but also consider how popular Dolly Parton was and how universally known she was. So that's where I say with some of the Olympians, maybe they don't have the brand recognition, right, to be in this. I'm saying a universally known, universally beloved. But I think the Olympic movement would be a good place to look. Eric says Ohtani, no, not Ohtani. Not after he signed with the Dodgers and not after the gambling scandal. Oh, I know. It was his interpreter. But no, Ohtani, no. Respected, sure. Beloved, no. Ohtani's not universally beloved. Eric says Tim Duncan. I know he wasn't. Nuggets fans will say they hated Tim Duncan, which is funny how life works, because then Nuggets fans ended up with their own version of Tim Duncan and Nikola Jokic. And now you understand, right? Now you understand how Spurs fans felt, where they're like, this guy, all he does is play basketball on an elite level and he doesn't cause drama and he's this super great dude and we love him. Why don't you at least like him? Why do you hate him? And now all these years later, we got Jokic and we've been, fighting with like Sixer fans and like, how could you not like Nikola Jokic? How could you not respect his game? I know for a fact that Nuggets fans hated Tim Duncan. And that went beyond like, oh, I don't like the Spurs. They didn't like Tim Duncan. David Robinson, that's a good one. David Robinson, good one. I mean, how can you say that you don't like any athlete that went to a service academy? Like already, they're the best of the best and some of the best human beings. David Robinson's a really good one. Mike Trout, another good one. Although, can I say something about Mike Trout I hate? I hate that Mike Trout has stuck it out with the Angels. That dude should play meaningful baseball. I hate it for him. Eric says that Steph Curry's way too cocky. Okay. Fair enough. That's the rule. It's universally beloved. If you don't like Steph Curry for whatever reason, he's not universally beloved. So, Eric, you went there. On YouTube, Logan Kenny says, what about Pele? That's good. I'm a soccer guy, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think Pele. Gotta call in earlier. How about Barry Sanders? I thought that was a great one. Barry Sanders. Like, and even with the hating of the teams, right? You have to ask yourself with these athletes, did you really hate the athlete or you just hate the team he played for? Like Barry Sanders never won enough to make anybody angry. Viking fan, Green Bay fan, get in here. Tell me, push back if I'm off base here. But I don't think the Lions ever won enough for people to dislike even the Lions, let alone Barry Sanders. And then Barry Sanders, and the caller pointed out, and I think it was spot on, like, how did Barry Sanders celebrate a touchdown? He didn't celebrate a touchdown. Gave it to the ref. Humble. And if you were even on the fence about Barry Sanders with what his dad did at his Hall of Fame induction, you're like, oh, I gotta be Team Barry Sanders here. What his dad did, like calling him the fourth best, right? Third best running back of all time. Like, bro, that's your son. Donnie says Michael Jordan. That's another one. No, that definitely not. People don't like Michael Jordan. Sky Pippen, because that's another level that you kind of got to go into here. Scottie Pippen freaking hates Michael Jordan. Not universally beloved. By fans, I don't even think so. So I wouldn't say Michael Jordan. So no to Ohtani, no to Jordan, no to Duncan, Robinson, Trout, Pele, Barry Sanders. This from the 719, Landon Donovan. Nope. That's got it. Nope. See, I'm better at saying no than I am coming up with my own ideas. You notice this? But no, Landon Donovan, trust me, Landon Donovan has. Now we're on his side in the wake of the World Cup and this debate about youth sports and everything like that. Like, we're on his side about this, and we liked him when he played for the U.S. men's national team. But trust me, even within the world of soccer, Landon Donovan is not universally beloved. Another one I got put the kibosh on from the 619, shout out Rey Mysterio, Muhammad Ali. No, Muhammad Ali was hated. He was hated. Now, when he passed away, was he hated? And I don't say even Muhammad Ali was universally hated. I'm not even going that far, but I'm saying there were plenty of people that did not like Muhammad Ali. Did they hang on to that grudge with how outspoken he was about the Vietnam War? You know, did they let go of that? I think there are some people that even when Muhammad Ali passed away, not that spoke ill of him or anything like that or said, I hate that guy, but to say beloved, universally beloved for Muhammad Ali, it sounds crazy because how could you not love Muhammad Ali? I think there are people, even years later, who are not the biggest fan of Muhammad Ali. Dave says Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn, is this a good comparison? Is Tony Gwynn the Barry Sanders of baseball? Like, walk with me here. I don't think Tony Gwynn ever gets the love that he deserves. Around here, maybe, because, NL West stuff, we saw a lot of Tony Gwynn. And remember the year where it was Helton and Gwynn battling back and forth for the batting title? Like, that was one of the best Rocky seasons ever. Tony Gwynn was so damn good at hitting a baseball. So good. But like Barry Sanders, he didn't win. Like, he didn't win enough. And that's where I think that a lot of people will hate or not love an athlete is because they win. And I have a sneaking suspicion those who may say, oh, no, Steph Curry, it's because he won. Tony Gwynn never won enough. You didn't hate the Padres. But Tony Gwynn was great player, great human being, and unfortunately, because I know they went to the World Series and lost to the Yankees that one year, but there wasn't enough winning going on in San Diego to get people to turn. So Tony Gwynn's a really good one. This is Donnie. What about Ovechkin? My former producer, Ray Dominguez, who still taunts me with his presence and doesn't help me with the show ever because he's got a different gig here. He brought up, shortly before I went on the air, he brought up Sidney Crosby. How about that Ovechkin Crosby? Universally beloved. How about Gretzky? Let's just go to the GOAT. Di went to the GOAT of basketball, the GOAT of GOATs, in my opinion, in Michael Jordan. Did anybody dislike Wayne Gretzky? I didn't dislike Wayne Gretzky at any point during his career. But I think the here's one coming in from Albert Bob Euchre. Now, we know him more as a broadcaster, to be fair. He did play. That's it. You got my... The Bob Euchre thing is good because I think you're right. I think Bob Euchre, with the Major League movies and longtime announcer for the Brewers, I think he would be up for consideration, but he's more of a broadcaster than a player, to be fair. Maybe that's the better one, especially in today's day and age. Is there a broadcaster that is universally beloved? I mean, just run through them in your head. Buck, no. Collinsworth, absolutely not. Troy Aikman, put a pin in that one. Brady, definitely not. Notice that Tom Brady was not suggested by anybody. I would say Charles Barkley as a broadcaster. Wouldn't you say that Charles Barkley as a broadcaster is universally beloved, not as a player? I know that much. That might be harder. It might be more difficult to be a high-level broadcaster, to call NFL games, baseball games, be on ESPN, and be universally beloved. Oh, here's a good one. Jim Nantz. Donnie says Jim Nantz. Jim Nantz, universally beloved. That's a good one. Guy on this radio station. You know him very well. No, not me. Dan Patrick. I know there are people who, as shocking as it might be, not the biggest fans of Ryan Kaufman. I do know people who are not the biggest fans of Jim Rome. I have yet to meet a person that's like Dan Patrick. Yeah, I don't like that guy. That's why this morning on the show, Dan's talking about how everybody doesn't want him to go through with this retirement date of his. We don't want to lose DP. Dan Patrick, Jim Nantz, Bob Uecker. 3 universally beloved. But there's one other one I want to. Oh, one other one I had to say no to, unfortunately, from the 719, Caitlin Clark. I wish it wasn't the case. She deserves to be universally beloved. I don't think she's universally beloved. And it's just based on, you know what, and it's flipped, right? There's one, and I don't need to go into all of this. You're acutely aware of what's going on right now. 3 weeks ago and back, we know that Caitlin Clark was not universally beloved for one reason. And now it's gone the other way. And now there's another group of people. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm bringing up is, like, especially in today's day and age, like Caitlin Clark is a great example. She literally just wants to shut up and dribble. She doesn't want to deal with all this other stuff. And it doesn't mean that she agrees with one side or another. I don't know. We don't know what side of the aisle. And I compared Caitlin Clark and what she's going through to Michael Jordan, when everybody wanted him to come out and endorse a Senate candidate in North Carolina. And I will say that I think Jordan handled it in a worse way than Caitlin Clark has. But Caitlin Clark just wants to play basketball. Not because Republicans buy shoes too, but she just wants to play basketball because she loves basketball and that's what she does. But now you got people who are mad at her because she's not more outspoken. I wish Caitlin Clark I could say that, because I don't see a reason why she shouldn't be. But the minute she arrived in the WNBA, if she was universally beloved, setting aside Angel Reese, if she was universally beloved at Iowa, the minute she arrived in the WNBA, she was not universally beloved. But I think what this exercise, and again, great answers. What this has opened my eyes to is that maybe the legacy of a Dolly Parton is actually, like, attainable. Like, there are athletes who actually are in that galaxy. Another one that caller had, Roberto Clemente. Right now, I think Roberto Clemente, in the grand scheme of things, is he, a superstar? Would we consider Roberto Clemente a superstar? But certainly, if you want to talk, he's certainly a famous athlete, certainly well known, and that leads to Jackie Robinson. Right? So this is why it's helpful. This is why I do what I do. I have a show that people can interact, and it gets all of us thinking about this. There are athletes who were looked at in the same way that Dolly Parton was, that everybody loved him. Not as many as we threw out. There are a few swings and misses on these, but maybe there are. And I think the Roberto Clemente thing is actually a great one, not to say that there aren't other athletes who, take part in philanthropic efforts, but that's what Roberto Clemente was known for, right? Unfortunately, he died being an amazing human being, right? He literally died trying to deliver aid. And that's part of the reason why Dolly Parton was so beloved, because of her philanthropic work. And a lot of athletes do philanthropic work. I don't want to say that only a small number of them, but that certainly helps, right? And how beloved you are is that you're helping out others. And Roberto Clemente was a perfect example of that. Like that was his whole thing. It's good. 719-247-1313. If you want to chime in, athlete that you believe is universally beloved. Take some of your remaining thoughts. There are a few things going on in the last little while I've been on air that I want to get to. So a few odds and ends before we go coming up next. All right. Couple more in here. Universally beloved athletes. Feel like we got a pretty robust list. But let's add in a couple more. We also kind of veered off into the sports media personalities lane as well. SoCal Dave says Joe Sakic. Albert, where are you? You're my ultimate barometer. Albert is our resident Detroit Red Wings fan. By the way, what's going on with Dylan Larkin these days? Curious. I was thinking about Dylan Larkin. What's going to happen with him? Is he just going to stay with the Red Wings? Anyway, whatever Albert says goes. If he gets in the next 3 minutes and 45 seconds and says, I don't like, and people of my ilk, Red Wings fans, do not like Joe Sakic, that's it. Not universally beloved. That would be the ultimate litmus test, though. If Joe Sakic is beloved by Red Wings fans, he might vault to the top of the list. That is amazing. Dave said, notice I didn't say Claude. Yep. No, but we loved him. We love Claude Lemieux. That's for sure. Someone also that we very much lamented the passing of in recent memory. Yeah, no, he would not be universally beloved, but he was beloved when he was on your team. That's for dang sure. This one coming from 719, Al Michaels. Universally beloved sports media personality. I think that's a pretty good one. So we got Euchre. I threw in Dan Patrick. Al Michaels. And I'm blanking on the other one that we had. Not Nick Wright or Pat McAfee. They are not. We would not bring them up. Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith. Nope. Not them. Donnie says, in all seriousness, Ryan Kaufman would be globally known and loved. He is an amazing human being. Oh, thank you, Donnie. That's very nice of you to say. Now, if you could say it in the general direction of my ex-wife, that would really help me out on that. Albert is in with a minute and 30 seconds to go in the show with Sakic thumbs up. Joe Sakic, universally beloved. Wow. That's big. That's big. And I don't trust anybody's opinion more than Albert's when it comes to how Detroit Red Wings fans feel. He gave Sakic the thumbs up. So what have we learned here? Not to make this a segment on the Dan Patrick Show, but what have we learned? Okay. The things that help you, philanthropic work, certainly. You can win, but you can't win too much. Title or two, that's fine, but if you're a part of a dynasty, no. People sour on you. And I'll say one thing about, and Dave says, thanks, Albert. I'll say one thing, as this pertains to NBA players and to Patrick Mahomes as well. You can't complain about every call that doesn't go your way. Like notice we didn't have a lot of NBA players in this because they complain constantly, and that's enough to turn some people against them. What was I going to get to? Jonathan Kuminga signing with the Timberwolves. The Nuggets can't even have their day. They signed DeMar DeRozan, and Tim Connolly's like, I got Jonathan Kuminga. That's all I have. Talk to you tomorrow.